Here's a familiar sight to everyone. Members of a cycling club out for a run. What a grand game it is, and the way to get the most fun out of it is to join a club. Everyone enjoys doing anything more if they do it well, and the best way to learn the finer points of riding, the essentials of style and position which make all the difference to the full enjoyment of this game, is in the friendly company of a cycling club. The national and local clubs are the basis of organized cycling, and it is mainly from the ranks of club riders that the outstanding speed men and women are drawn. It's the clubman who knows the real joys of cycling. Come, echo the words, "All I ask, the heaven above and the road below me." For with a good cycle and gay companionship, the beauty of Britain is yours to see, and every road leads to health and happiness as your wheels whir merrily along. This is a sport for old and young alike, but there's one club that it takes a long time to get into. Let's go and see them at their annual summer meet held this year at Hampton Court. The Fellowship of Old-Time Cyclists. 38 members turned up, many of them over 80 years of age, with a lifetime of wheeling behind them, and a very happy reunion it was. First to arrive is A.J. Smith of Rumford, and he's greeted by G.A. Clark of London. Here's Sid Capener, who's ridden the 101 miles from Birmingham. He and other members are heartily greeted by Secretary Brereton Summers, with a general handshake all round. As well preserved as its owner, Ted Billing, is this 1927 machine, a beautiful specimen of cycle engineering of its day. While Sid Capener continues his chat with Secretary Summers, Ted Billing, 84 years old, President-elect, says hello to the retiring President, Fred May. Here's Jenny Walters, who under the old regulations in 1899 set up a 24-hour motor pace record of 634 miles, and it still stands. As these grand old-timers retire to the hostelry for lunch, doubtless to swap stories of many happy times of wheel, the toast is, the Fellowship. May you long continue to spin those wheels. Now let's go back to 1889, a year those old-timers can well remember as the year in which Walter Edlin manufactured a bicycle suitable for the first pneumatic tires. To his workshop in Belfast came Willie Hume, captain of the Belfast Cruisers Cycling Club, with an order for a new machine. Hume was interested in the new tires and had been to the inventor, John Boyd Dunlop, for permission to use them on his new racing bike. Now Hume had a reputation to think of, and these newfangled tires had yet to prove their worth on racing machines. People said they'd blow up, they'd slip, and they wouldn't have any speed. Yet so convinced was Hume of their ultimate success that he persuaded Edlin to put them on his new bike. Was Hume right? Let's see what really happened.
A great day in cycling history was the afternoon of the Belfast Queen's College Association, May the 18th, 1889. Everyone was in a state of excitement to see Mr. Dunlop's new contrivance. A strange-looking bicycle that didn't seem to touch the ground at all. Wind, if you please, pumped into rings round the wheels. It was a great start, with the Pride of Ireland getting away in fine style. And wonder of wonders, Hume was no more behind than the others were in front. And that's saying a lot, for none of them were backward and coming forward. Away they went, penny farthings and safeties, fighting it out neck and neck. And Hume coming into 5th place, going like the wind in his own wheels. What a race. The place was in a turmoil. Faster and faster they went, and still Hume kept going. Begorra, this was a race and no mistake. Lap after lap went by, and in the last lap, Willie Hume put on a sprint as though the devil himself was after him. Whoever thought such a marvel could happen? The bumps didn't seem to bother the wheels at all, and Hume taking the lead as easy as falling off a log. Only he didn't fall off. He came right down to the finishing line, and as they flashed past the winning post, the applause was terrific. And everybody wanted to look at the new contrivance that had made Willie Hume the darling of the ladies and the pride of Belfast.
But many wheels have spun over many miles those days. So now let's see some of the highlights of cycling sport in the 1952 season. Here's Eileen Sheridan, held up by Monty Southall, all set to attempt that grueling record, the straightaway 100 miles. Choosing the Barnet-Norwich course, this small parcel of female atomic energy is smartly away to speed merrily down the Barnet bypass. The telephoto camera allows us an opportunity to admire her nifty pedaling action at close quarters as she revs steadily at 25s from a rather forward position well over the bracket. Just look at that rhythm. Eileen Sheridan showed her capacity for speed in her amateur days, and her record-breaking feats as a professional have been no less remarkable. Making excellent progress, Eileen takes a drink in the style of the accomplished time trialist she is, and gets on with the job of burning up the miles in the minimum of time, as confident and cheerful as ever. The finish is at Ketts Oak, about 7 miles south of Norwich, and timekeeper B.W. Best waits patiently as the seconds tick by. Here she is, in a flying sprint to complete 100 miles in the record time of 4:16:1, beating Marguerite Wilson's pre-war record by a comfortable margin. Manager Frank Southall is highly delighted, and it's a happy party that moves off to plan, no doubt, the next record attempt for this remarkable little lady from Coventry.
From road records to a race which is now one of the classic events in the roadman's calendar. The Isle of Man has long been famous for its motorcycle TT races, and since their first introduction in 1936, the annual mass start cycle races over the same circuit have now firmly established themselves, attracting the cream of British and continental racing men. Here, under ideal conditions, with the roads closed and excellent organization, the riders can savor to the full the joys and sorrows of mass start road racing. Early morning on the race day. Competitors' machines are brought in for examination. Among the first to arrive are Les Wilmot, England A team, Brian Pusey, England C, and Les Ingman of the Apollo Cycling Club, whilst race commissaires Frank Sleeman and Tom King of the Manx Viking Wheelers mark up their record sheets. Now here are the boys in quick succession. A. Easterford, Dixie Wheelers, Brian Haskell, England B, and Alan Barnes of Ealing, the 1948 winner. Tiny Thomas, England, is also in good time, followed by the Canadian trio of Fellows, Whitaker and Smith. In the grandstand, prior to the start, race officials are presented to the Governor of the island, Sir Geoffrey Bromett, and Lady Bromett. The riders, marshalled in starting order, parade to the line. The stage is set. Timekeepers check off the seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The flag is down, and away goes the field of 100 riders, led by Claude Rouet of France. The dash down Bray Hill marks the beginning of 113 miles of grueling climbs, tortuous bends, and hair-raising downhill swoops. Breakaways are attempted early in the race, and at the Gooseneck, with about 25 miles covered, J.L. Hines of the Dixie Wheelers leads the field in the first mountain climb. Hard on his heels come Roland Bessemer of France and the Scottish rider Jim Hamilton, with the main peloton in hot pursuit. As the riders honk up the steep climb, the distinctive striped jerseys of the Ile-de-France Club, the ultimate team winners, are easily picked out in the pack. By the time Governor's Bridge is reached, the main field has regrouped and strings out to negotiate this very tricky bend. Just watch the cornering style. Here's the rest of the field, headed by T. Lovell of Coventry Meteor, and despite a spot of dodgy brakework, the last man just manages to get round. With the second lap just started, the field, still compact, swoops down to Quarter Bridge, making a fine picture of cycling action as the riders speed out of the bend into the fast straight run down to Braddon Bridge. At Ramsey Hairpin, they begin the grueling climb up the 1,400-foot mountain for the second time, and things are beginning to warm up in earnest. Tiny Thomas and Bob Maitland lead a breakaway group of some dozen riders, including Ewart and Reed of Ireland, Wilmot, England A, Bastianelli of France, Smets of Belgium, and Dick Bowes of England, into the second ascent of Snaefell. The main group passes, but the hardest struggle is for those who have lost contact and ride alone. Here's Easterford of the Dixie Wheelers finding out what the word endurance means. The second climb up the mountain has been tough, but a spirited trio fight out the Bungalow Prime, with Bernard King crossing the line just ahead of Claude Rouet of France and Brian Robinson, with a pack hot on their heels. With 70-odd miles of hard riding in their legs, the field, now split into two main groups, swoops down Bray Hill on the third and final lap to face once again the apparently endless miles of this arduous circuit. The vital test of endurance, stamina, speed and real racing ability is now to be made. The decisive move of the race came at the beginning of the mountain climb, when André Papillon jumped away from the leading group and forged ahead alone. Here at the top of the mountain, we see in hot pursuit Claude Rouet, followed by Maitland and the Robinson brothers, but Papillon is now over a minute ahead. Here he comes, down to Craignabar at over 50 miles an hour, and barring accidents, he has the race in his pocket. He's round now and well away, and there's little hope for the chasing group led by Bob Maitland, for they're now well behind. In the grandstand, the crowd are eagerly awaiting the arrival of Papillon. And here he is, flagged home an easy winner by 1 minute 19 seconds, having covered the 113.25 miles in 5 hours, 2 minutes 46.6 seconds. The sprint for second place, vigorously contested all the way to the line, falls to Francis Claude Rouet, with Bob Maitland third. And so the Frenchman receives the victor's sash and adds his name to the distinguished list of winners of this famous event. Nice riding, André Papillon, Claude Rouet and Bob Maitland.
From Britain's classic road race to the world's premier road event, the Tour de France, which started this year from the old seaport town of Brest. Here, prior to the start, with the town en fête for the occasion, there's all the ceremony, excitement and noise that will continue to mark the Tour during the whole of its 23 stages. Here's the Belgian team led by Constant Ockers and Rick van Steenbergen. Italian team manager Alfredo Binda supervises final preparations and checks details with Coppi. Close by is teammate but keen rival Gino Bartali. The tape is cut. From the start of today's section, the road stretches 246 kilometers away to Rennes. The Tour is on, but first the race is neutralized until the outskirts of the town are reached. This year's race, the 39th in the series, promises to be the toughest yet, with the usual mountain stages through the Alps and Pyrenees, and only 2 rest days during the whole Tour. It's the 10th stage, Lausanne to Alpe d'Huez, which provides the first big test. This stage finishes at the summit of the Alpe d'Huez Pass, which rises to 6,000 feet, and the field is still grouped as it moves up the early slopes of the climb. But this doesn't last for long. The star climbers soon show their superiority and break away early in the climb, with Gelabé, Coppi and Gimignani leading the attack. Coppi remorselessly piles on the pace, burning off the others one by one: Gimignani, Dotto, Ockers, Gelabé and Robic. Riding as strongly as ever, he finishes the stage 1 minute 20 seconds ahead of Robic to take the yellow jersey that distinguishes the leader in the general classification, a jersey he means to hold all the way to Paris. After a rest day, the field starts on the Bourg-Droissin to Sestriere stage, which takes the Tour across the border into Italy. This is one of the toughest stages of the race, with 3 mountain climbs, including the Col du Galibier, rising to 8,400 feet. Heat wave conditions add to the riders' difficulties, and Coppi and Bartali take refreshers, faithfully supplied by their domestics, in readiness for the heavy work ahead. Coppi means to consolidate his position as maillot jaune and attack strongly on the Galibier climb, and again demonstrating his tremendous superiority, ultimately reaches the summit with a 2 minute 35 seconds lead. Still he presses on, over Montgenèvre, across the frontier and into Sestriere, over 7 minutes in front, as he threads his way over the rough road, through the milling mass of cars, motorcyclists and spectators. All the town has turned out to welcome the riders in this supreme test of endurance. The 18th stage brings the Tour to the Pyrenees, and once again Coppi dominates the race as the riders climb the Col de Tourmalet above cloud level. Leaving all behind, the master of the mountains increases his lead, using his wonderful climbing ability to the full. Robic and Gelabé climb forcefully, but they can't match the pace of the Italian. Not content with the climb through the Alps and the Pyrenees, the Tour, as a final test, takes a route through the Massif Central mountains on the homeward road to Paris. And here the ascent of the Puy de Dôme witnesses one of the most dramatic incidents of the race. The stage from Limoges starts quietly enough, the main portion of the route being covered as a compact peloton, the riders content to ride at a steady pace through the blistering heat, well aware of the stiff climb ahead. In the early stages of the climb, Coppi leads Corriere, Gelabé and de Cribaldi. This time the effective breakaway is made by Gimignani and Bartali, a Bartali anxious to improve his position in the general classification. The big surprise comes, however, when they're caught by young Knowlton, the Dutch rider, who in his first tour shows remarkable climbing ability. Dropping his more experienced rivals, he puts all he knows into his effort, with an almost certain stage win in prospect. Gimignani and Bartali, anxious and tiring, flog themselves in trying to bring the Dutch boy back. But word of the position has gone back to Coppi, here seen leading Nello Laredi and, as ever, controlling the action of the main peloton. With the news that Bartali has been dropped, Coppi moves vigorously to the attack. Away in front, Knowlton, in his forceful style, strains every muscle to maintain his advantage. But his terrific efforts are beginning to tell, and Coppi, dropping the peloton with less than 1,000 meters to the top of the climb, is in hot pursuit. He catches Gemignani and Bartali, and then, barely 400 meters from the finish, overhauls and passes Knowlton, who is a very tired man, and Coppi forges on to yet another stage win. The Dutchman's valiant effort is of no avail. The Tour has its traditional finish on the Parc des Princes track, and the main peloton, including the star riders, is now due. Here they come, in one spectacular surge onto the track for this final lap. The vigorous sprint goes to Steenakkers of Belgium, who is second in the general classification, followed by Jean Robic and Gino Bartali. But positions are of little importance in this final stage. The race is already won. The real interest is to welcome the men who have made Tour history during the past weeks, and in particular, Fausto Coppi himself. Bartali is satisfied with a well-merited fourth place. But all eyes are for Coppi, who, after an affectionate meeting with his wife, makes his way to the rostrum to receive his final victor's bouquet and the congratulations of all. No rider before has so completely dominated this great race. Well, indeed, does he merit the title of Champion of Champions.
Let's turn now from road racing to track, to a typical track meeting in this country. All the leading riders feature in the program, and in spite of dull weather, a big crowd gathers. While Reg Harris, 3 times world professional sprint champion, has a chat, and Cyril Peacock, reigning British amateur sprint champion, waits for his call to go to the mark, we catch a glimpse of that grand old man of Manchester cycling, Jimmy Taylor. One of the main events of the afternoon is the final of the amateur sprint handicap, and the order of these top liners as they move away from the start is Shinty Gray and Lloyd Binch, Cyril Peacock, Mockridge of Australia, and Dutchman Heislandorn. Gray uses his handicap advantage to take the lead, and Peacock and Mockridge are soon moving up on the outside, with Heislandorn hugging the grass. Now's the moment. Here's Mockridge using his devastating power to pass the leaders and win comfortably, with Peacock in second place. In the professional sprint 4-up race over 800 meters, Patterson, taking advantage of his opponent's preoccupation in a slow start, steals away, and seeing the ever-widening gap, jumps into a full sprint. Can he hold the lead from such riders as Harris, Bardsley, and Belanger? They chase, the gap narrows, but Patterson remains the fugitive to win the match comfortably. The day is not entirely without charm, and the ladies appear in their handicap race. In the final, Millicent Williams leads in the back straight, followed by Joan Thomas with Margaret Tate and Edna McCormack trailing. Shortly before the 2:20 mark, Joan makes her big effort, and with a long, strong sprint, battles it out with Millicent down the finishing straight to win in fine style by a clear lane. To round off the appearance of the professionals, an attack is made on the English quarter-mile flying start record, which stands at 24.2 seconds. And here we have the chance of seeing 2 champions going flat out. First to make this all-out effort is Sid Patterson, who, riding with characteristic verve and power, covers the distance in 25.4. Harris's attempt shows the mark of the master. Swooping into the track edge, he unswervingly follows the sprinter's line and with a supreme effort clocks 24.3, a superb time under difficult weather conditions. Points awarded during the afternoon make Reg an easy winner of the Omnium, and he takes his bow, a happy winner on his home track. The final and principal event in the programme is the famous Moratti Gold Cup race, and a large field is soon away to a good start. Lap scorer George Harper checks his boards for this 10-mile classic. During this race, the lead changes many times. Tommy Oldfield is one of the first to get away, but very soon Olympic rider Don Smith takes over. Harry Hardcastle then leads, and the field has forgotten individual rivalry for a moment and is fighting hard to catch up. The breakaway group is swallowed up, and it looks all set for a closely bunched finish. But no, in the last lap, Jan Heislandorn makes what is to be his final effort, but Mockridge is in close attendance, and as they fight it out up the straight, an attack by Alan Bannister looks as though it might be successful. Too late. Another victory for Mockridge, but what a finish. Tommy MacDonald presents the cup to the smiling Australian, a rider surely destined to gain the highest honours in cycling sport. Now for time trialling, the form of road racing established many years ago in this country, and still the predominant competitive event in club life. In this game, it's a matter of being up early, so the camera was turning in the half-light of early morning for the start of the blue ribbon of road time trials. First man away is Hall of the East Bradford Club, and 10 minutes later, Ken Whitmarsh of Southampton Wheelers comes under starter's orders. With a full card, timekeeper Jack Beecham has a long session before him. Here's Vic Gibbons of Brentwood Road Club, getting away in fine style. H. Alford of the Ex-Valley is the last man away. At Wallingford, Ernie Steele, marshalling the light crossing, has his team of operators organised with an efficiency born of long practice. On to the Abingdon turn in time to see Bill Messer turn W. McAteer of Western Command back along the route. And now, riding very strongly, Vic Gibbons, making good time, whips neatly round and is fast away. By this time, riders are coming back along the second leg of the course, and here's Swindonbank of the Liverpool Century. Les Wilmot of Western Army Command speeds strongly into the Bath Road. At Speen, the feeding station is in full action. This is one occasion where nobody stops for tea, but all and sundry are grateful for a hand-up. The feeders are busy and indulge in their usual Sunday morning sprints, handing up the drinks with slick efficiency. The whole feeding team works in a spirit of enthusiastic cooperation, typical of the sport throughout the country. With Newbury behind him, and on the last leg of the course, Vic Gibbons is positively burning up the miles with the ease and facility of a rider obviously at the peak of his form. The usual enthusiastic crowd lines the finish to see the riders home. The news has gone round that Bill Kinghorn of Cheshire Road Club is doing a hot ride. And here he is, finishing with a personal best ever time of 4:12:50. But soon Vic Gibbons is reported approaching Pangbourne Lane, and he's obviously doing a storming time. He flashes over the line, definitely first in the record time for the event of 4:7:18. Well ridden, Vic. Ken Joy, British best all-rounder for the fourth successive year, didn't ride in the Bath 100, but still maintains his position as top boy in the time trial game. Many will have seen the Medway Star in action down the road on the big race days, and here on one of his training rides he gets them round in the easy, powerful style which has sent him right to the top of the tree. A good riding position and a rhythmic pedaling action, combined with a fine physique, provide the sound foundation for success. With a background of many, many training miles, a will to win, and a mind well adjusted to the task on hand, you have the make-up of a worthy champion. Ken Joy, a fine product of Britain's road game.
From the apparent tranquility of a road time trial, we now come to the hurly-burly of 6 days bicycle racing, one of the most exacting and exciting events in the field of competitive cycling sport. High on the list of the big sporting events of 1952 was the Wembley 6. The track, specially built for the race, measures approximately 10 laps to the mile and has banking angles of 40 degrees. Great care is necessary in forming the curved bankings from strips of specially selected timber. Every angle and joint must be perfectly formed. One bad joint or a protruding nail head can play havoc with the light tubular tires used by the riders. The scene is now set for the start of this cycling marathon, in which 12 international teams will be pedaling some 1,500 miles over the next 6 days. Prior to the race, each team rides an introductory lap, and here's Britain's Dave Ricketts and his Luxembourg teammate Lucien Gillen taking a bow. They're followed by Jean Roth and Armin van Buren of Switzerland. And the hot favourites, Alfred Strom and Roger Arnold of Australia, who were runners-up in the 1951 event. As starting time approaches, the officials take their places and the crowd eagerly await the starter's gun. At a minute past midnight precisely, the fields are away, swinging into a fast pace and settling into the feel of the track before the first sprint series, which is soon in progress. One rider from each team must always be in the field. Reliefs are effected as the riders wish, and the spectacular changes are a feature of the race. Sower changes are most generally used, involving a vigorous push by the retiring rider on the back of his incoming partner. Here, Jean Roth, the Swiss rider, is all set to get back in the race and waits for a signal from partner Van Buren. Even after 3 days, the terrific pace is still being maintained, lap after lap, mile after mile, interspersed with special sprints, some for prizes offered by spectators, and some for the prime points, which will decide the race in the event of a tie on distance. Hour after hour, the interminable round goes on, with short relief spells at the cabins, but there's always time to crack a joke. Albert Briand and Alfred Strom seem to be enjoying life anyway. Sid Patterson of Australia has a massage, while happy-go-lucky Henk Lackerman enjoys a cup of tea, and Lug Gillen and Rigoni prepare to re-enter the fray. What a test of endurance this race is. 6 days streaking round a wooden bowl, 6 days of fighting strain and boredom. And so it goes on until early on the final exciting night. The positions of the leading teams can be seen from the illuminated scoreboard which dominates the arena. The race is fast reaching a climax, and with the leading teams, Strom and Arnold, and Rigoni and Teruzzi level on distance, there's an all-out endeavour to build up all-important sprint points, or better still, to gain the vital lap lead which will put the issue beyond doubt. Sprint follows sprint in the final period, and with the teams marking each other closely, it's far from easy to break away. But suddenly, with a flashing change and an inspired sprint, Alf Strom and Roger Arnold make the all-important lap gain, and despite combined attacks in the last hour, the Aussies hang on to their slender lead. The riders are at full pressure, the jam is on, and there's no time to leave the track. Alan Smythe fires the gun for the final sprint, and so to the last seconds of the race. With the warning lamp showing 2 laps and then 1 lap to go, comes the last thrilling dash for the line. And with the Australian boys holding their lead, the race is won. A quick change into clean vests, and Strom and Arnold, with runners-up Rigoni and Teruzzi of Italy, are ready to receive the victor's laurels from Lady Elgin and then ride a lap of honour to receive the well-merited cheers of the delighted fans. Champion of the World, a title we must all have possessed in our dreams at some time or another, no matter in what sphere our sporting activities have taken us. The 1952 World Cycling Championships were held at the Parc des Princes track in Paris, and there was some brilliant riding by British and Australian riders. Cyril Peacock in particular excelled himself. Here Peacock, in the light jersey, is riding his semi-final against Saki, the reigning champion, and Cox of Australia. Bang on form, he rides with a confidence and assurance that belies his short experience of big-time racing, and gains the verdict by a narrow margin from the crack Italian for the second time in this series. The 3-up formula leads to some surprising results, not the least of these being the eclipse of Russell Mockridge, rated as one of the favourites for the amateur title. In this semi-final, the Australian finds the Italian pair, Moratini and Pinarello, in the dark jerseys, too much even for a rider of his class, and he can only finish second. The qualifiers for the amateur final are Cyril Peacock and the two Italians, Saki, who qualified after successfully negotiating 2 repêchages, and Moratini. Peacock rides a great race, but despite a valiant effort has to be content with 3rd place. Saki retains the world crown. But bravo, Cyril, a 3rd place at the first attempt is something to shout about. Even more surprising were the results of the professional racing. The semi-final repêchage brings Harris, Van Fleet, Patterson and Saint-Flabon together. Saint-Flabon, using a big gear, takes a flyer off the banking into the back straight, and the intense rivalry that has developed between Harris and Van Fleet during the series results in another tough ride for Reg, the Frenchman riding through to a totally unexpected victory. On paper, the final of the pro sprint seemed a certainty for Derksen, but again surprise was the order of the day. Plattner, taking advantage of Derksen's preoccupation with Saint-Flabon around the banking, sits into the last corner, and with a clear run up the straight, takes the title whilst his rivals continue their struggle right up to the line. World Amateur Champion in 1946, Oscar Plattner now holds the pro title. Alan Newton, in the light jersey, riding in the semi-final of the Amateur Pursuit event, was another British rider to cover himself with glory in his first World Championship. Here's Nino De Rossi making his customary fast start on the opposite side of the track, and one of the toughest races of the whole series is on. De Rossi knows the quality of this new British rider and pulls out all the stops in an effort to establish a winning lead. Losing ground in the early stages, Alan is nearly 25 metres down as he comes into the final lap, but with an amazing burst of speed gains rapidly on the Italian, only failing to catch him by a mere 5 metres. A wonderful ride. In the final, another newcomer, Van Heusden, meets De Rossi, who, exhausted by his efforts against Newton, cannot match the fine riding of the young Dutchman, who has the rare distinction of winning a world title at his first attempt, to the delight of his fellow countrymen. The Professional Pursuit Championship witnessed a contest between two strikingly dissimilar personalities. Cheerful, happy-go-lucky Sid Patterson in white is matched in the final against the serious, poker-faced Italian Bevilacqua, who's out for a 3rd consecutive win. It's a contest of contrasting styles as well as temperaments. Patterson, the sprinter pursuiter, against Bevilacqua, the roadman pursuiter. Patterson rides just as hard as Bevilacqua makes him, and is even prepared to lose some ground in the earlier stages, leaving it to the final laps to make up the arrears and administer the coup de grace. There can be no more popular winner of the Rainbow Jersey, his third to date, than Sid Patterson, the man who laughs his way to world titles. The demi-fond or motor-paced events still draw the biggest crowds on the continent, and here, with no British riders taking part, the battle is fought between number 10, Adolf Verschuren of Belgium, and number 1, Walter Lohmann of Germany. It's a tough, hard game, with a thriller minute as the riders launch attack after attack on the leader. There's a wonderful understanding between pacer and follower, and the skill of the pacers is often the deciding factor in the result of the race. High-speed motor pacing is a dangerous game, but these skillful exponents of this form of cycle racing give the crowd just what they want: speed, noise, excitement, and superb bike riding. Verschuren wins this race, one of the most thrilling spectacles in the world of sport.
To represent your country in the Olympic Games must be the ideal of all amateur athletes. And here's the British Olympic cycling team leaving Bovington Aerodrome for Helsinki. They went well aware of the strength of the opposition, but with full confidence in their ability to put up creditable performances on behalf of the country they'd been chosen to represent. This they did in full measure. The pursuit team in the 4,000-metre event were the only members to win medals. As losers in their semi-final, the British team ride against France, and Alan Newton, Don Burgess, Ron Stretton, and George Newbery are all out for that bronze medal. In the early laps, their French opponents ride into a slight lead, but the British boys fight back hard, and riding in perfect style, draw level, holding the position until the final lap, when once again Newton proves to be the strong man of the team and puts in a terrific last lap to lead the boys to victory. In the 1,000-metre time trial, Don McKellar, after a magnificent ride, unfortunately only gets 5th place, Mockridge taking the gold medal. The road team were unfortunate in losing their captain, Dick Bowes, in a training spin accident, and the British representatives are Graham Vines, Brown and Desmond Robinson, and Les Ingman. The British team rides strongly and well, but the pace is too hot. The British boys just can't match the speed of the opposition. Ingman, despite a gallant effort, is forced to retire, and the Robinson brothers finish 12 minutes after the winner to take the 26th and 27th places, whilst Vines, further behind, comes in number 31. André Noyel of Belgium taking the honours by a comfortable margin. In the tandem event, Alan Bannister, who rode in the 1948 Olympics with Red Harris, has Les Wilson for steersman, and they ride their first round against the Finnish pair, Linomar Nieminen. The British pair are uncertain of the strength of these riders on their home track, but they have plenty of speed in hand and find no difficulty in riding round their opponents to a comfortable win. But their progress is halted later by the South Africans Robinson and Chardelot, who beat them in the quarter-final. The Duke of Edinburgh sees the final, an all-empire final, with the Australians Mockridge and Cox riding against the South Africans Chardelot and Robinson. The Australians choose to ride from the front in this race, changing the tactics they employed in the earlier rounds. In the back straight on the final lap, Robinson and Chardelot make their attack. And what a race it is as the flying tandems fight it out, all the way round the banking and down the finishing straight, the verdict going to Mockridge and Cox by the narrowest of margins. We close our review of some of the highlights of 1952 with gold medalists Mockridge and Cox on the victors' rostrum at Helsinki. A magnificent show, and congratulations to them both. And now, club members and cyclists of all ages, we've shown you some of the best exponents of the game, the men and women who make the headlines. But we end where we started, the club run, the foundation of all that's best in this grand sport. Au revoir, and long may you continue to spin the wheel.